the retirement home to live. And just the first time he was there, this lady started watching him. It bothered him that every place he was, he'd look, and this lady was looking at him. And so they went to a couple of meals, and she was watching him. Went to play bingo, and they looked up, and she was watching him. Really got to bother him, so he finally went over and he said, "Ma'am," he said, "I noticed that every place I go," he said, "you're watching me." She looked at him, smiled, said, "You look exactly like my third husband." He found, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm really sorry." Look, he spoke to her real careful. "I'm sorry about that." She stuck her face up, listening to him. He says, "Ma'am, how many husbands have you had?" She reached up and patted him on the cheek. "2." We're going to do there we go. The session is on getting your faith moving. I think I feel a little humbled about that. Any one of you could do this better and in more depth than I can, but since Andy made the introductions, me's what you got for the next little bit. I think we ought to change the title of that maybe a little bit. Instead of getting your faith moving, it's keeping our faith moving. So that because everybody's got it, it's moving. Move it along the best we can. And the best word I can get to do that from my life is this concept of discipleship. Now, the way we'll kind of run this for the evening is I'm going to do a little bit on the screen, kind of a background of a base floor for where I am personally in this area of discipleship. And then we'll shut this off, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a personal rundown of how discipleship happened to me and what it means. So as we go along, you just kind of plan on that's where we're headed. Get some ground rules out of the way first. Discipleship is not about me, and it's not about you, but it is about God. He put this together. It's His idea, not mine, not yours. It's Him that we're following in this matter of discipleship. Another one of the ground rules is if Christianity is not important, it's not important. I mean, if it's false, it's not important. We're wasting our time. If that's not true, why bother? And we can look at when we go outside, there's a world out there that think that might be the case. On the other hand, if it is true, then discipleship and Christianity is the most important thing in the world. But one thing we can all agree on, whether it's true or whether it's false, it is not just moderately important. It's a binary thing. It's all or nothing. But it's not just moderately true. I got a blue star up there. There's two or three, from my perspective, two or three things that you might want to think about taking home. Take homes. Got stars on them as we go. This is not a Christian concept, but we become like whatever we give our attention to. That's not a Bible kind of a concept. If you go to school to study like a lawyer, you'll become like a lawyer. If you go to school to study like a doctor, you won't become an auto mechanic. You become like whatever you give our attention to. Now that applies directly then to where we are in our Christian life. We become like whatever we give our attention to. If we give our attention to God and His Word, we'll become like His Son, which is what we're predestined to do. We'll work on this just a little bit more as we go along. But if you want to change our actions, the first thing we got to do is change our thinking. Because we act like we think. If we want to change our actions, we got to pick up some new thoughts and some new thinking. You become like whatever you address your attention to. Because you change your thinking, therefore you become like it. Give that some thought, because we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. We'll have a chance to do a little discussion. So be thinking about what it is that you're giving your attention to and what you're wanting to become, kind of as we come down a little later. Another ground rule for discipleship: when God speaks, we listen and we don't change the subject. When do you become a disciple? When does that happen in our lives? Well, if you're breathing, you're alive.